Today I wanted to really talk about, this topic, like why do people have a certain preference for people from their tribe or their area. I've spoken about this before because of course we get that a lot. People wanting to just, Igbo wanting to just marry only Igbo, Yoruba wanting to marry just Yoruba. But this time I wanted to talk about it because it happened country-wise. It happened to a client this week and she's from a different country entirely. So I wanted to talk about this just in case someone else was going to go through the same thing, or at least watch before you come on the platform. So she's African American and she wanted to be matched with, anyone. She wasn't really picky about who she wants to be matched with. So I spoke to her. She kind of sounded like me, so I was like, okay, so when it got to the part of, tell us where you're from, what we have to put on the profile, which is what people see first. And she's like, I'm American. And I'm like, okay, do you have African parents? And she's like, yeah, my mom is African. I'm like, okay, so do you want to put on your profile, just to let people know that you have an African background? And she's like, no, I want to make sure that they know that I'm American. I'm like, okay, cool. It's not for, the reasons I explained to her, that it's just so people have an idea of the background. And she's like, no, she wants it this way. So we did it that way. And she didn't get the matches she wanted or the type of matches. She didn't have like the best experience. And so I was trying to, we're trying to talk around that. And I was like, this is the reason why I said, this. And not because I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to tell you to include all your backgrounds, because we had a lot of people say, we had a couple of guys say, I don't want to be matched with her because she's American. I'm going to try and put a screenshot of what the chats were like, because she's American. And then some guys were like, oh, I only want Nigerians. And she was like, oh, it's discriminatory and all that. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. Like when it comes to dating, it's not like black and white. And I would say there are three major reasons why people do choose, why they have a preference for someone from the same place with them. And the three major reasons, I would say the first one is on experience. So if you've had a certain experience, if I've dated 3 Yoruba guys or 3 Igbo guys and they acted a certain way, from experience, I could be like, oh, I don't want to date from this place anymore, because somehow in your mind you tell yourself that all of them are the same, So experience is one of the reasons why someone might be very particular about dating from a certain tribe. And a second reason, or a certain country, a second reason will be based on what they've heard. So a lot of times you find that Nigerians or Africans have heard, oh, Americans are like this or like that, and Americans have heard that Africans are like this and like that. So those judgments are based on stereotypes. You haven't even had the experience, but because of what you've heard or what you've seen basically from afar, you're like, I don't want to date from this place, So that happens as well. But the most popular reason why people want to date, the preference is, towards the country they're from or from the state they're from, is for familiarity. Honestly, it's like for having that similar background, which is what I told her the first time. People want to be able to just feel like they can connect without having to explain themselves. So I've seen people wanting to match Igbo, just Igbo, telling me, oh, it'll be easier because we understand each other's culture. So that's basically what it is. They're trying to avoid culture shock, having to avoid situations where you have to explain to your partner what certain things are. It's assumed that if you're Nigerian, there's certain terms you would understand without being explained. If you're dating a Nigerian guy and his sister came to tell you, oh, my boyfriend last week, he served me breakfast, you would automatically get and be like, oh, that's so sad. But for someone that's not Nigerian, might be like, oh, that's so sweet, he served you breakfast. You're arguing with your boyfriend in a playful way and he says, weary. And a Nigerian understands what weary means, but you don't understand what weary means. And then you ask somebody, what does weary mean? Weary, what does that mean? And then the person tells you it means mad person. You're going to be like, why is he calling me a mad person? Does he think I'm like mad, like angry? Or does he think I'm mad, like cuckoo? It's just the break in transmission, basically, the culture shock. So people try to avoid it and let her know that it's not just location thing, that everyone loves familiarity. If I'm Nigerian, I go to a different country, I meet someone there and the person is like, where are you from? I'm like, African. The person's like, I'm African. So there's that excitement you get immediately that, oh my God, someone, you want to just hold on to that excitement. So you're like, oh, we're in Africa. Person's like, Nigeria. You're like, oh, Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria too. We're in Nigeria. It keeps going down. You're like, we're in Nigeria. The person is like, I'm from Akwa Ibom. You're like, Akwa Ibom? No way. We're in Akwa Ibom. It keeps going down and you're like, from Oron. Person's like, no freaking way. Okay, we're in Oron. You're like, where are you from? Person's like, what? Okay, what's your family name? It goes down to the guests, to the family, because everyone kind of knows everyone when you get to a certain level, right? And I told her it's the same for you as well. Every call, you go to a different country and meet someone else and they're like, where are you from? You're like, America. And they're like, no way, I'm American too. Where? They're like, we're in America. You're like, I'm from Georgia. And they're like, we're in Georgia. You're like, Atlanta. They're like, oh my God, I'm from Atlanta too. We're in Atlanta. You can be like, I grew up in Peachtree Park. Because it could just be anything, and you keep going further down. So you kind of find that connection. But the familiarity itself really feels exciting. So that's why people like it. You go to a gathering or anything, and someone says, I went to Howard University, someone shouts, hey, you, and everybody replies, the excitement from that familiarity, like I'm around people I know that came from the same thing, that we have something, similar. People just love familiarity too. So I would try to put some screenshots that I had with her, discussing all this, and kind of what her reply was like. I have to rush off now. I have brunch with my sister. Well, basically, I'm going to even talk to my sister about this. She'll just have her opinion on it too. We're just trying to just figure out, like, dating itself. So you see situations like this, we explain it so you can understand and know what to expect. So I'm just telling her about the girl's experience, the African American girl that she didn't get lots of matches that she wanted, so trying to get like what you think about that.
Yeah, I understand why people feel that they need to match according to their ethnic background, because it's similar. People feel that it's comfortable. I don't need to explain why this and that doesn't work.
I said the same thing.
You understand what I'm saying? So imagine that some ethnic backgrounds in Yoruba or Igbo land, you kill a snake. That's taboo. Yeah, some people eat dogs, and a specific kind of dogs. Not that you carry your chihuahua and say, I go eat your dog. No. They're specific dogs. So you carry your, if you don't have, you go there, you don't eat them. Oh my God, you eat them. They'll say, what do you do this one? And it's easier for people to go along with this culture that they understand than explaining, oh my God, you have to do this, you have to do that. You put your shoes, you person to actually understand your culture.
So I just got back from lunch with my sister, and I spoke to her about it. The whole people's preference for being matched with people with the same background, just some familiarity, and she's like, she understands. I mean, for the first time when I heard it, and I'm Nigerian, I didn't even know that in certain states you can't kill snakes.